My number three is Saving Mr. Banks from 2013, directed by John Lee Hancock, starring Emma Thompson, Tom Hanks, Quick and Colin Firth. Quick logline: author P.L. Travers reflects on her childhood after reluctantly meeting with Walt Disney, who seeks to adapt her Mary Poppins books for the big screen. So I put this movie on my list because to me, this movie symbolizes how movies can actually save people, you know? And kind of going back to my point earlier on how primal this is and how powerful this is, the act of storytelling. And sometimes for creative people,
Mm-hmm.
I think they need a bigger canvas to do this and tell their story. And that could be writing a book or making a movie or what have you, to really heal themselves as humans of what they're carrying. And I think this is what this movie is about. The movie is flawed. It's heavy-handed, especially the flashbacks of all of P.L. Travers growing up and such.
Mm.
To me, it's a little heavy-handed, a little dull. But I think what really stands out is brilliant performances by two of his lead actors,
Mm-hmm.
great world creation of the golden age of Hollywood. But I think at a deeper level, what really comes through is that both these people, P.L. Travers and Disney, more so P.L. Travers, are carrying all this pain with them. They're just totally shackled by it. And there's something about the push and pull between the two of them, the art of making this movie, everything that happens in the rehearsal rooms through it, it ends up freeing both of these people of their childhood madness and shackles.
Mm-hmm.
And will they be better people? Will they be nicer? Will they be happier? Who knows? But it's sort of, it's a beginning in a way of something new. And I think movies do that. To quote Nicole Kidman, heartbreak feels good over here. And as corny as that is, and let's face it, I am corny, or I
Mm-hmm.
like corny.
Mm-hmm.
Another movie dialogue, or I can use more corny in my life. That's the dialogue. Um, there is something to that, and I think you see that in those final shots when Pale Travis is sitting in at the Chinese theater watching
Mm-hmm.
this movie put together and just sobbing. And I have wept in that scene the number of times I've watched this movie, and what leads to it almost doesn't even matter, but it does actually because you're primed for it. And that's
Mm-hmm.
why it moves you, because you've seen this person carry this whole thing with her entire life, and there she is finally seeing this, and she's been saved, her dad has been saved,
Mm-hmm.
the movie has been saved, the story has been saved, and hopefully tomorrow will be a better day. And apart from that, I just love, put a new person in a uncharted territory. And I love her introduction in the world of Hollywood, which
Mm-hmm.
is saccharine, and everybody is like on 100 all the time, and the amount of sugar literally that's been brought on. I just love all of that.
Yeah.
The genius of Sherman Brothers. Like I'm sure there's a documentary somewhere out there on the making of Mary Poppins and how the Sherman Brothers worked. But
Mm-hmm.
watching all that is sort of genius, like what they've created. I mean, I'm a big Mary Poppins fan. We've talked about this on this podcast. So,
Mm-hmm.
watching this, I remember in LA in a pack screening, week one, and just seeing everybody. It's one of my memorable movie watching experiences in the theater as well, only because this movie is so beloved, right? So to get a peek behind the curtain of what it took to make it, just the music stuff, like I
Yeah.
think that's pretty amazing. But yeah, ultimately, like I said, it's a flawed film, but I think it does capture something deeper about movie making, and the fact that you have to be sort of crazy to want to go and do this in the first place. And both these people are pretty crazy and pretty flawed. So that's what comes through.
Yeah, yeah. I agree with your kind of take on the film overall. Like it's not perfect, but there are some parts that really do work. I definitely think for me the scenes that are the best are the ones about very directly about the making of Mary Poppins and her with the Sherman Brothers. And I love when movies are kind of take you behind the scenes of movies that you love. Like I love making of movies.
Yep.
And though one of the downsides of that is when they change things like about what actually happened. And that's something that for me, it was just hard kind of watching this movie No, especially with that ending of her sort of like crying in the theater, which was not, they kind of give her a closure on the whole I shouldn't have sold this to Disney thing, and made it almost seem like she liked the film, which was not the case. I think years later she did like all the money she was making from it and kind of changed her tune a little bit in terms of talking about how much she really didn't like the experience. But I thought that, Disney made the movie. The movie was made by the Walt Disney Company. And I feel like they were doing a little bit of, changing history a bit there, which was, I don't know. It bothers me sometimes when they change things that actually happen. But, for me, I think this movie, all the things you talked about, it definitely discusses in terms of what the artist brings and how they're, using the art to heal themselves. But I also feel what this movie does really well, too, is talks about like creative differences between these two creative forces. And, one is this artist who's expressing her personal story. And the other one is the salesman. He's the, the capitalist who sells art. And it doesn't really feel that it has a personal connection. Even that scene when he kind of convinces her to kind of go along with things about, oh, this happened to me in my childhood and stuff like that wasn't true too. Like he just was trying to sell her on trying to bring her across the line. So I thought that was really interesting kind of juxtaposition of the business of film, because again, it is a business, and also two people that view art very differently. Like he's so focused on the audience. What is the audience wants animation, they want fun, they want songs, because he knows he's an entertainer. And to her, she's not really thinking about the audience, she's thinking about herself and protecting this story, which I think is a struggle that you see in artists, especially when in film, because it is a business first and foremost. It's not an art form in the same way that painting or poetry or writing, where you can sit in a room and just do it and that's it. Like, you need a lot of money, you need a lot of people, therefore there's a business, and therefore there needs to be a business angle to it. I think this movie does a really good job of kind of talking about those tensions and showing them between Walt Disney and Travers. I enjoyed those scenes.
Yeah, the commerce and art part is like really in dialogue with each other. And I'm sure that's going to come up, at least in my list. But yeah, you're right. Like in this movie, they're at equal footing. They're sort of pulling and pushing against each other, which is actually really fun to watch. On your point earlier, like I'm sure she was not happy or what have you, but I can still see somebody sitting in that theater and being moved and being taken back to their childhood and such, even though they hate the whole thing, that can happen
for sure. And again, it's like, I understand why I'm not mad at the movie for doing that. Like in the narrative, it works and you kind of need that closure. It's a personal thing with me when movies alter like even small things in history.
Like maybe she was moved during the first screening. It's possible.
According to her, she could have been lying. Who knows? But
she could have been lying. That's the other thing. You watch Emma Thompson's interview during when the movie was coming out, and she was like, "This was a very hard character to pin down because not only was she eccentric and fixated, but also very unpredictable." And she sort of said this, that I was afraid that people might think that I've got her wrong, because she's so all over the place. Like, why would she wear a bright pink caftan? That's what she references.
Right.
In the end, I'm like, oh, suddenly Travers is very sunny and cheery and fun. But that's the sort of stuff she would do. Very erratic personality. So anyway, but I know what you mean. When that happens, that can be annoying. But I think in this case, that's the sense I got, that this person is very erratic.
Yeah. It's just a personal pet peeve of mine. So I just had to bring that up. Hey there, it's Alex. If you like the review and discussion Karan and I just had, make sure you subscribe to our channel, Movies That Shaped Us, to get full episodes. Every other Wednesday, Karan and I cover a topic around important people, places, events, and moments in our lives, and then explore it through 3 of our favorite movies. Subscribe right now, or follow our podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts via the link in the description below. Hope you join us for the journey.